I'm Eli the electronics guy, and today we are setting up the OBSBOT Tail Air in a soccer field for person tracking and ultimate view of your next soccer game. So in this video, we're taking the OBSBOT Tail Air, we're connecting it up to an ATEM, and we are gonna be doing a multicam setup out here on this soccer field. So that's what we're gonna get into. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move this camera around, get you a better shot. But a few things to note here. OBSBOT did send me these cameras for review, so full disclosure there, but there's no money exchanging hands. So my honest reviews will be coming in this video. But today we're gonna be connecting up the OBSBOT Tail Air into an ATEM Mini Extreme. That's right, we've got the OBSBOT Tail Air feeding into an ATEM Mini Extreme. If you're interested to know more about the ATEM, in this case, I've also got it running into a USB-C. Check the links in the description. I'll have links to that video. But today we're doing the OBSBOT. So with that, I'm gonna bring you along. Literally all I've got is I've got an OBSBOT Tail Air. I just actually factory reset it, so it's completely fresh. And I have auto face exposure on. So that's the only settings I've done in the OBSBOT. I'm feeding a Rode Wireless Go mic into this OBSBOT Tail Air, and it is internally recording at 4K, and it's outputting 1080p HDMI out to the ATEM Mini Extreme. So let's do this. I've got the remote set up, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn off person tracking. If you notice, the OBSBOT's tracking me, so I can move around and it keeps me center frame. That's one cool feature of these cameras. But I'm gonna go ahead and turn off the person tracking. So we've got person tracking off. I'm gonna bring you down into here. So let's zoom you down so you can see what we've got going on. So these are PTZ cameras. They are a digital zoom. I have the ATEM Extreme hooked into a screen here so I can see what's going on. And then I have 3 HDMI inputs. So that's how I can feed in the multicams for today. So we'll be just pulling HDMI out of these OBSBOTs. So in the intro there, you saw a drone. I'll put anywhere that if it's how you're seeing this video. So in the intro there, you saw the recording in 4K direct from the camera punched into 1080p. So this video is gonna be exported in completely 1080p. So I'll make sure to note somewhere in the video how you're seeing the video, but it should be from here on out, everything you should see is gonna be the OBSBOT Tail Air. So what I've got here is I've got the OBSBOT on top of a Savage light backdrop stand that has a 1/4-20 screw, and then that plate that I made goes right on top of there, and then that lets me get up a little bit of height on the cameras. What I'm using now is fiber HDMI to run 150-foot cords for these cameras to be connected up back to that ATEM. Okay, here we are. We're on that camera, on that stand. This one right here is the camera. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna raise it up in the air to get a nice aerial view. So now we've got our camera all the way up in the air so you can get views like this in person tracking. So not only can I go to that camera, but I can come over here to this camera and have an awesome multicam setup. So we now have our 150-foot fiber HDMI plugged into our ATEM Mini Extreme. And then what that lets us do is camera angles like this, where we can switch over to that camera. Then what we can do is we can then pan out and see the entire soccer field and get a full view of the action. Then we can get closer, and as the players get closer using that remote, we can then turn on person tracking and it will start to follow everything happening in the field. So earlier I talked about these plates. These are just cheese plates. Basically they've got 1/4-20 on one side. I've added a micro HDMI to full-size HDMI just to help protect, especially when plugging into the fiber HDMIs. But then we've got our OBSBOT, and that just screws right onto the bottom here. I've also got the Rode Wireless Go receiver into the side here on this one. So I can go ahead and take our 1/4-20 screw here, and just thread that into the bottom. And before I get it nice and tight, take off our protector sheet. spin the camera around. So I've got this plugged in here. So right now you're seeing me on 100% battery. So, but if I wanted to, I could actually use the USB port and then use the OBSBOT Ethernet to USB adapters and power these over Ethernet. So on this OBSBOT, I've got the Rode Wireless Go going straight into the external audio connection, and that's actually how you're hearing my audio right now. So I'm gonna take this, we're gonna go over there. So right now we're walking, I'm hand holding this OBSBOT. Not really what it's meant for, but it gives you kind of an idea. I'm gonna turn on person tracking, so it's gonna start to track my face. So not really meant to be a vlog style camera, but in a pinch, right? If I'm carrying a camera, I might as well have it record me if I'm carrying it. So I'm gonna go ahead and take it, I'm putting it on. So what I've got here is, let me go ahead and turn off person tracking, and I'm gonna kind of move you so you can see. So what I've got here is I've just got another tripod stand. I've got a little mount on top. That's actually where I could connect up like my YOLO box and that kind of stuff. But I could put it, I'm gonna put this camera right here on this 1/4-20. So let's go ahead and do that now. So now you were on that 1/4-20 on that tripod mount. I'm gonna go ahead and take our fiber HDMI connection. So if you know anything about fiber HDMI, this one is 150 foot. You really can't run a regular HDMI cord that long. It's just not gonna work. You've gotta do fiber HDMIs. One little thing to note about fiber HDMI is you have a source side and a destination side, or a display side. So you've got to be really careful that you make sure that you get these in the correct orientation. So obviously source would go into, or coming out of, our OBSBOT video signal would use the source side, because our OBSBOT is going to be our source for our video. So I'm going to go ahead and go around here. It's going to actually track me as I do this. Pull out our protective cover. Pop that into there, and now this video is now being sent 150 feet back this way, all the way to our ATEM. Okay, now we're back over here at the ATEM. We've got the other end of our fiber HDMI. This one's labeled TV, which is gonna be our output, which is gonna go into our ATEM Mini Extreme. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually turn off person tracking using the remote, and I've got a preset set up so you'll be able to see what I'm doing here. So if you notice kind of a trend here, I don't like plugging cords that I'm gonna be kind of outdoors, moving in and out. I don't like plugging cords just straight into devices. So I actually have this keystone jack here with my 3 HDMI inputs. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug this into here. And if you notice right there, our other camera just popped in. And then what I can do is I can go full screen into that camera up here. And then actually, if I zoom you guys out, you'll be able to see there's that other camera all the way over there. So through the power of editing, you're gonna drop out of this camera and into the recording of the Blackmagic. So now you're in the Blackmagic. So what I can do is, you're seeing this camera still, but what I can do now is I can switch to this camera. And then I can switch to this camera on the other end of the field, and then using the remote and the presets, I can click a preset and move it around using our remote control. So all from this, we can move our cameras around, do our different presets on them. It's so cool to have a multicam setup. And again, we can switch to this camera, which is all the way over there seeing us. And then another one out in the middle of checking out the field, looking at the soccer net where our other tall camera is at. And then what I can do is I can even use the pan tilt zoom, and we can zoom in on that other camera. How cool is that? Multicam setup. Okay, so now what we've got is we've got our ATEM, our camera set up, and then what we can do is I've got Wi-Fi connected up, a little wireless router, portable router, plugged into here. Keep in mind, we're on 100% battery. My ATEM is actually running on USB-C power delivery. If you're interested to know more of how I did that, comment below and I'll make a dedicated video on the little adapter I made to be able to run this whole case off of a battery bank. But then our OBSBOT Tail Airs are also battery powered. So here we are in a soccer field, and we could then technically plug in a hotspot modem, go out to any kind of social media, YouTube, Facebook, wherever. We could also feed this out of the ATEM into like a YOLO box and use the built-in cellular connection. But what's cool about the ATEM is it has what's called super source. So right now you're seeing me directly on this camera. What I can do is I can switch over to super source. I've got this layout just set up, just something real quick. I've got kind of me and the bigger one. And then you'll see over on that side, you'll see the other two cameras kind of set up there. But using an app called Mix Effect to work with the ATEM super source, I can quickly come in here and I can find those that I saved. So let me pull them up here. Here they are. So if I want to get a different angle full screen, I can do that. If I want to come in with another different angle, I can pull up this one. So cool what you can do with the ATEM and with SuperSource. You could mix in different cameras from different angles. Maybe you want picture in picture, right? This is what's so cool about these new OBSBOT Tail Airs. With them having that HDMI output, you can feed them into any kind of video switcher for your multicam setup, let alone they do have NDI, and you could feed that into like OBS or some other kind of NDI receiver and be able to use it even over wireless. So you wouldn't even have to run those fiber HDMIs, but a pretty cool setup that you can do for these OBSBOT Tail Airs. So we just got finished setting up the OBSBOT Tail Air as a multicam setup out here in the soccer field. But I want to go through a couple things. So first off, again, in full disclosure, OBSBOT did send me these cameras to review, but no money's exchanging hands, nothing like that. But I kind of wanted to explain how I come to find out about these. So this is the OBSBOT Me. So this is the unit I actually bought myself. They did not sponsor me for this one. I found it at our local micro center. And when I found it, it was super cool. It's basically a AI tracking, but a cell phone mount. So there's actually a video on my channel. If you go look, I did a cybersecurity talk because that's kind of what my day job is. I actually did a conference talk and I use this. I actually have a 3D printed, it's not really what it's meant for, but I have a 3D printed mount that will actually hold my Sony ZV-1. But yeah, so that's how it tracks me in that video. So this is how I found out about OBSBOT, and I saw they had the Kickstarter for these new Tail Airs, and I'm a huge fan of the ATEM. I like the YOLOBox stuff, and all that requires a HDMI camera. Well, the new Tail Airs have that HDMI out. So I reached out to them and said, hey, let's do a video collab. And they were like, yeah, let's do a multicam setup video. So hopefully you guys liked that multicam setup video. But I kind of wanted to give you just a real quick rundown. I've been using these for the past like week or so. Actually 2 weeks now at this point. They're pretty sweet. So obviously, right, like we've got our internal microphones, and actually, so right now you are listening to me on the internal OBSBOT audio. Check, check, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm about, so this is arm's length from the camera, and then probably about 4 feet away. So check, check, 1, 2, right directly onto those capsules. I'm gonna come off center just a little bit. Check, check, 1, 2. And I'll come off on this side. Check, check, 1, 2. So this is internal audio of the OBSBOT. Okay, now we're back on the Rode Wireless Go going into the OBSBOT Tail Air. So also about the hardware, right? We've got our internal audio. We've got micro SD cards, so they can handle up to, I think, 512 gigs in exFAT. Got our micro HDMI, USB out, so they do work as a USB webcams. I've not tested that actually yet, but you do have to enable that in the app. So again, we've got that aux audio in, and then back to the front, we have a battery indicator. So you've been watching this video in 1080p, but technically the OBSBOTs on that internal micro SD card actually can record at 4K. So we've been out here, right? We've got it plugged into the ATEM, but we've kind of been getting an ISO recording in all of our independent cameras at 4K. So we can do cool things like we can actually punch into that, right? Like we can digitally zoom in, because 4K is kind of 4 1080p feeds, right? Like if you kind of look at it side by side. So we can actually, in post-editing, drop in, or we could actually stream this using a YoloBox or an ATEM at 1080p while simultaneously recording 4K to our micro SD card slot. So a pretty cool feature that you can actually go out of your HDMI at 1080, but still record internally at 4K. So with this, I'll make sure that there was a couple drone shots in here. So as I'm editing, I'll make sure in there somewhere I put cards, so you'll be able to see what camera you were pulling from. And last thing, kind of finishing up, I've been using these for a couple weeks now. I actually took them to my kid's soccer game, but sadly I won't be sharing any of that footage. I do teach cybersecurity, so I don't post any pictures of him online. So you won't be seeing any of that, but I will say it's been working pretty good. I set it up on like a yard stake. It's like a camera mount stake thing, and the cameras are super small, so it held them just fine. I also took it, there's a video actually in my YouTube right now. I took it actually to our local fair. So got to record like a demolition derby. So if you're curious to see that, I'll make sure that I put in a card up above. So yeah, so currently right now, the OBSBOTs are on Kickstarter. If you're watching this at time of recording, it's only gonna be on for a couple more days. So you might be catching this after the fact. But check out the links in the description. You'll find an affiliate link to take you over to the Kickstarter, or you can just simply search up OBSBOT Tail Air on Google and I'm sure you'll find it. But yeah, so again, links in the description if you're interested. They are currently running a Kickstarter. You do get a discounted price. I'm also gonna I've got the remote up here. So this is also a part of the Kickstarter. They've got the different cameras, so you can control all 3 cameras from the one remote. You can zoom in, start and stop recordings from it, turn on person tracking, animal tracking. I haven't tested actually animal tracking yet. And again, at time of recording, this is only set up for an Android app at the time, but they are coming out with an iOS app as well as a PC app. So the other thing I'll show you is the OBSBOT's Ethernet adapter. So it's a PoE Ethernet adapter. It has USB-C power in if you don't power it over Ethernet, but then it has USB-C out that goes into the OBSBOT's USB-C port, and it allows you to get power all off of one cable as well as data. So these cameras do offer NDI, and you could do wireless NDI or you can do NDI over that Ethernet connection. Okay, so let's talk about where I think these cameras are useful, right? So we're talking about auto tracking. With the auto tracking, I've been kind of doing some testing over the last 2 weeks with it. Out at a skate park, did some testing there. It was having trouble keeping up. Now, granted, you can set the speed tests, like the speed settings from a slow, normal, and fast. But even at fast, it was having trouble keeping track of somebody skateboarding. But like out here at a soccer field, it does perfectly fine. Where I really see these as a good use, I teach. So I could really see these in the classroom. With that USB-C, they work as a webcam, so you could feed it into like Microsoft Teams or Zoom. But then you could also record internally up to 4K using a Rode, and you could have literally just the camera, a Rode wireless mic, and you're up and running recording your lectures or your talks or whatever. And then you could technically feed that out into a Zoom call. So pretty cool. I also see these used for like podcasters, especially with the ATEM and mix effect. You could do what's called video follows audio. So the video would switch based on who's talking. So that's where having the multi-cameras would be kind of neat, let alone then being able to have control over those with the remote as well. You could just have an operator that could start and stop the recordings there. So yeah, so kind of wrapping up here, that zoom in, zoom out, it is a digital zoom. So I kind of want to point that out. It's not the best. I'm hoping actually OBSBOT, they have, especially out here in like this kind of setting, they didn't have any for me to test, but the ND filters, they make ND filters for them. I think it'd be super cool if OBSBOT could make it. I don't know if they can or not, but I think it'd be neat if they could make like a, almost like an ND filter, but instead of an ND filter, it would be like a 2X or a 4X lens. So if you knew you were gonna be doing some kind of a soccer field or a baseball field, or even at a conference talk or a house of worship, right? You've got the camera far in the back and you wanna be able to get a nice tight shot and you're always gonna want it zoomed in. I think it'd be kind of neat to just slap on an optical lens and it would punch you in 2X or 4X optically, because it is a digital zoom. It does kind of get blurry at times. I was really worried when I was out at the demo derby at the fair. I was really concerned because looking at the phone, I was like, oh my gosh, this is unusable. But actually after watching it back, it's definitely usable. But it's a digital zoom. It is what it is, but they are PTZ zoomed out at that 4K, super nice quality. Really, my thought is if you want to get that, I wouldn't really necessarily use the zoom, but what I would do is record in 4K, and then you could crop into 1080p, and you would then, basically you're getting that digital zoom, but you're doing it after the fact in post editing, which would be a cool little workaround. So yeah, so with my background in cybersecurity, I really like these. I could see these again being used in the classroom pretty heavily. I actually did a full-on live stream actually out here at the park when I had a drone pilot come out to get some of the footage that you guys saw. So I was actually doing a live stream. I was up and running with the 3 cameras in the matter of like 10 minutes. I mean, it was that quick, up and running with the YoloBox. Again, it was an hour and 45-minute live stream using just all battery operated. So it's pretty sweet. So it's a pretty quick setup. And again, so I'm curious to know what you guys want to see. I've got these cameras. These are kind of right now at the time of recording. The Kickstarter is live. So I kind of know what you guys want to see. Put in the comments. Let me know if there's anything you want to have me look into. I really kind of maybe want to experiment with NDI. I don't really use software encoding. I'm pretty much a hardware encoding person. But I could look at loading on OBS and see where we could go. I think also these do support OSC commands. I think it'd be kind of neat to try to get them connected up to Companion and using a Stream Deck to switch feeds and move things around. So I think it'd be kind of neat to play around with that. So again, I hope you guys like this video. If you would, obviously I'm going to give you the classic YouTube thing: like, subscribe, comment below. You know, that does help out the channel. You know, helps the algorithm kind of move me up there. So if you would do that, that would be awesome if I earned that from you today. And again, I'm Eli the Electronics Guy. See ya.